Breastfeeding Survival Guide. Welcome to our second bonus here. We're going to be talking about how to get started with breastfeeding if you are an expectant mother, some things about milk, some facts about milk, and all the way up through what to do in your first year of breastfeeding. So let's get started. Okay. To begin, you're going to want to begin nursing as soon as possible after birth, even minutes just after your delivery. This actually aids in stimulating contraction to aid in the delivery of your placenta. Oftentimes, if you have an IV during labor, if you haven't had Pitocin during your labor, they will give it to you after you've delivered to stimulate more contractions so it's easier to deliver the placenta. Well, you can do this naturally just by nursing. Just by nursing, your body will start creating the hormones it takes to continue with those contractions so that the placenta will be delivered more easily. And nursing soon after birth also aids in the mother-baby bond. It always helps to get that in right away. There's also a very short period of time, about an hour and a half, when baby is really super alert after birth. And after that, they tend to go into this deep sleep, and it's very hard to wake them for the next 24 hours after delivery, because delivery is a very exhausting event in baby's life. But at first they're very stimulated, so this is a perfect time to get in that first nursing period and get some calories in the baby, some nutrients in the baby, and get started. Let's talk about how you will practically get started. First, you're going to make a C-clamp around your breast with your hand. So you're just going to with your opposite hand of the breast that you're going to be nursing with, you're going to make a C, and you're going to hold your breast and kind of pinch it a little bit so that it's easier to get in the baby's mouth. You're going to rub your nipple on the baby's lips just to get them to open wide. And when they open wide, you're going to insert your nipple as far as possible into the baby's mouth. Now, you really want to get the nipple as well as about a half an inch of the breast around the nipple into the baby's mouth. This will create the good latch, and the nipple will be back far in the baby's mouth. And if the baby doesn't latch right on, just try again. And when he's latched, he will create a suction to the nipple. This is created by sucking and simultaneously massaging the nipple with his tongue. Just remember, if the baby is latched on, don't attempt to pull the baby off the breast without first breaking the suction, because that can be very, very painful if you just try and pull them off, because it is quite an intense an intense suction that they create in there. So if you need to get the baby off for some reason, just stick your finger in the corner of their mouth just to break that suction. The first nursing session attempt to get baby to latch for 10 minutes per side. So if it doesn't go 10 minutes per side, then don't worry. This is a learning experience for both of you. So just try 5-10 minutes. If they go longer, great. Let them nurse as long as they want to that first time, as long as they can. They will probably tire out pretty quickly, but if they nurse for a whole hour, that's great. One thing to remember is that the more relaxed you are about learning to nurse with your baby, the easier it will be. Babies are born with this natural instinct to suck and to get nutrients. Like, that's the one thing that they're born with, just get food, get food. That's what they're always thinking. But the stress and the tension that you might have about it going well or going perfectly or not hurting or whatever it is, that stress and tension can make it harder on both of you and actually impede the breastfeeding process. So it's very important that you are just relaxed, and things will be fine. You will learn. So when you start off with your nursing, you are going to work to get baby to nurse about 15 minutes per side. So you always want to nurse on both sides. Both sides need stimulation every nursing period. So you'll start off and try and get baby to stay awake and nurse for 15 minutes on the right side, and then you'll burp them in between, and then put them on the left side and get stimulation on the left side and empty that breast out. If they need more, you can put them back on the other side for another 5 to 10 minutes, and then switch, burp, put them on the left side again for 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to talk about your milk a little bit. So beginning in pregnancy, through the first days of breastfeeding, your body will produce colostrum. Now, colostrum is a very nutrient-rich and easily digestible food for baby. There are so many amazing properties that colostrum has it's just such a perfect first food for baby. So it's very nutrient-rich to keep baby healthy, to keep them from getting sick in these first days. It is also calorie low and fat content low. It's a very easily digestible food so that it helps baby pass that first stool. But oftentimes this is why when you're in the hospital, the baby will drop weight up to 10%. It's because there's not a lot of calories or fat in the colostrum. So they do drop some weight, but they're getting lots and lots of nutrients those first few days. And then after a few days, it could be the second day, your milk will begin to come in. And this is called transitional milk. It's the transition from colostrum to milk. And so colostrum has a yellowy or orange color to it, and milk is white. So your transitional milk is somewhere in between. It's got kind of a yellowy tint to the white. At this time, you'll start to experience the letdown. You can experience a tingling sensation, or it might actually feel you could feel some pressure or even some pain in that. It just depends. Some people don't even notice it. Other people, it will make them sick to their stomach to feel that letdown. Hormones that are produced in your body when you nurse stimulate contractions. And this is also just an amazing way that the body works, that God has designed our bodies to work. Your uterus needs to shrink, and you need to expel the blood that has been there cushioning the baby's bed for 9 months. So when you nurse during those first few weeks, you may experience more bleeding or cramps at that time. You know, you haven't bled for a couple hours, and then you nurse your baby, and then all of a sudden you have some gushes of blood, and that's completely normal. Those contractions help the uterus come back down to a normal size. But you might have some cramps at that time too. And the more babies that you have, the more intense your cramps are at that time. So you might need some ibuprofen, and that's fine. Just keep on top of that. Keep administering doses every 4 hours so that the pain is less. I'm always surprised after birth how intense the cramps are. I feel like I'm in labor again, and like, no, I just had a baby. I don't need to go through this again. I've done all this hard work. We don't use pain medication for birth, but after the baby's born, I'm like, give me the ibuprofen. Okay, pain and nursing. Sometimes you can experience some pain during your first few weeks of nursing, and that's completely normal. The nipples have to become calloused, so you may feel pain every time the baby latches on. Now, this could last a couple of days to a couple of months. Some people never experience the pain at all. I've had 6 children, and still every single time I experience some sort of pain for the first 3 weeks. I can't stand forward facing in the shower even because it's pretty intense pain before my nipples start to get calloused again. Some ways that you can deal with this are to change positions frequently to reposition the baby's tongue. So if that baby's tongue is in the same spot every time, it's just wearing and wearing and wearing on that same spot. So if you can reposition the baby, then you can put that tongue in a different spot and get them rubbing on a different spot in the nipple. So you can do the cradle hold. This is the most common hold that people use, and it's probably one of the most comfortable. That's why it's the most common. You can also switch to the football hold. So this is where baby's head is on the same side, their body's on the same side as your nursing breast, and their feet will be behind you. So get really comfortable, put some pillows behind you, use your boppy pillow to prop them up so that your shoulders are relaxed and you're not tensing your muscles to try and keep them in the right spot. You can also do the side laying position. You can lay in bed or lay on the floor and have the baby lay next to you. You can also, it's hard to describe without showing you, but you can put the baby opposite. When you're laying, you won't be laying belly, you will still be laying belly to belly, but their feet will be up by your head instead of by your belly. This gives you just one more place to reposition their tongue and the nipple. I've had to do this before. It seems a little awkward at first, but it is much needed if you have a painful spot on your nipple. So we probably don't need to go through these. Position review, cradle hold, football hold, side laying position. The most important thing is just to be comfortable when you nurse. Slouch down in your chair or on your couch. Make sure you have pillows to prop you up. Use that boppy pillow. It's very hard on your neck and your body and your back if you are tensing it all, if you're trying to hold the baby up with your arms and your shoulders at all. So get very comfortable. Just slouch down and get comfortable. And chances are, if you're uncomfortable, the baby's not going to be nursing as well either. So you want to be in a comfortable position for both of you. Okay, breasts and leakage. A lot of times when you let down, the other side will start to leak while you're nursing, or before your body gets into a good routine, then you will start to just let down at random times and when you're not even feeding your baby. It could be when you hear a baby cry or you think about nursing, your body just starts creating those hormones and the milk comes in. Now, you can use different pads to absorb that milk so your shirts aren't all wet. There are some choices. You could use the reusable pads or disposable pads. Now, each of those have different pros and cons. The reusable pads, they have more, they're more breathable, so you're less likely to get an infection with those. However, they tend to be not as absorbent, and if you have enough leakage, you could leak through those. The disposable pads, on the other hand, are very absorbent and they hold all that milk in there. You do need to change these very frequently because the milk sitting there, it needs refrigeration, right? Milk needs refrigeration, otherwise it starts to grow bacteria. Well, it's the same as the leakage that you have. That milk, if it sits there, will start to grow bacteria and can give you a breast infection if you're not careful. So they do both have their pros and cons. All right, so talking about infections, we'll move on to clogged ducts and infections. A clogged duct can be super painful if you've ever had one. You might feel tenderness in a spot or even a lump where the milk is kind of piling up and clogged. There might even be some redness or heat where that duct is clogged. So here are some things that you can do. Nurse more frequently. This might put a little bump in your normal schedule, but it's very important to get this duct unclogged because it could lead to an infection if it doesn't get unclogged. So nurse more frequently, um, and hopefully that your baby will just naturally get back on the routine when they need to. And don't worry, you can always retrain in some areas and it won't take long. It's just a short period of time and a necessary one too. The other option is that you could pump in between nursings. When you're nursing or pumping, massage the area that is clogged, and this can be absolutely so painful. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to rub it, but that does help to get that duct unclogged. Use a warm compress, either a heating pad or a warm washcloth. Hold that on the area. That helps to stimulate the blood flow and get things unclogged. You can also do a warm shower and face forward in the shower. This can also be a painful thing, but better to get things unclogged than to have them turn into an infection. So if you start running a fever of 101 or more, call your doctor. If you have a good relationship with your doctor, they might just prescribe something over the phone so you don't have to go in, but sometimes they want to take a look at you. And if you have ongoing pain in your breasts or your nipples, this could also be an indication of yeast infections in your nipples or other types of bacterial infections. So call your doctor if you have any questions, or at your 6-week checkup, and you can talk about that. Make sure to bring that up. Okay, so it's really important when you're nursing to switch sides for your beginning side at each nursing period. So I have come up with a system so that I can remember, because I can never remember from one nursing to the next nursing. What side did I start with last time? I have no idea. So what I have done is, this is just my own little way to remember. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, my first morning feeding, I always start on the left side. And I choose to start on my left side on 4 days, because my left side is my lower producing side. So when you're nursing, babies always take more on the first side, and then on the second side they're just filling up the rest of the way. So the first side probably gets more stimulation and a longer time, even if it's just a couple minutes. And if you don't stimulate these breasts evenly, one side could become much lower producing, or and you might become lopsided. And for some people it is very noticeable, the lopsidedness, because one side just doesn't get the stimulation as the other side does, and then one's much bigger than the other one. So you don't want that to happen. So try and work out a system that you can remember. This is my system. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, I begin on the left side. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I begin on my right side. So this would look like Monday at 7 a.m. I nurse on my left. At 10 a.m. I nurse on my right. 1 p.m. I nurse on my left. 4 p.m. I nurse on my right. 7 p.m. I nurse on my left. 10 p.m. I nurse on my right. And I mean, I start on the left side, start on the right side, start on the left side, start on the right side. I nurse from both sides for every feeding. I just start on the opposite side for each feeding. So so that they each get stimulation that they need. Okay, the bottle and breastfeeding. Many times people will say, oh, don't confuse the baby and do the bottle, and then they'll start preferring the bottle. But if you don't, then the baby will start rejecting the bottle. And so it's a conundrum, right? What do you do so that the baby can do bottle and breast? What I recommend is practicing with the bottle often, even in the first week of life. Most of the times you're not going to confuse the baby, or they'll start preferring one over the other. If you switch back and forth naturally and just practice with both, practice with the bottle, nurse mostly, practice with the bottle, but you do need to keep up your practice with the bottle. Just because they take it one time in the beginning doesn't mean that when they're 2 months old and you'd like to go and do something for the day, and you need to leave the baby with a babysitter, it doesn't mean that they're still going to like that bottle at 2 months old. So you do have to continually practice with the bottle. For babies that seem to have a harder time with the bottle, you can practice up to several times a week, or even once a day. I have run into this problem with one of my children. At 2 months old, she just decided she didn't like that bottle anymore. We had done it a couple times in the beginning, and I thought, oh, she takes the bottle just fine. Her sister took the bottle just fine, so she'll be fine too. Well, at 2 months old, she decided that she wouldn't take a bottle at all. So I was very stuck. I had to have her with me at all times. It made it hard to go out for a date night, or if I needed to go out for a longer than a 4-hour period, it was hard to leave her. So we dealt with those challenges, and that's a whole nother video, a whole nother topic about how to deal with a baby that won't take a bottle. But try and be proactive and practice with the bottle so you don't run into that. So being able to take the bottle and the breast is a skill that you don't want to lose. All right, are you questioning your supply? So many times mothers say, I don't know if I'm producing enough. I don't know if my baby's getting enough. Well, go back to our video on full feedings and review the ways that you know your baby's getting enough to eat. Keep track of their wet and dirty diapers. But if you really want to know how much your body is producing, what I recommend is to pump and bottle feed your baby for one entire day. The amount of milk that your body produces changes over a 24-hour period. So in the morning, you're going to have a lot more milk if you've had a prolonged time between nursings at night. So if your baby is sleeping all the way through the night, you might have a lot of milk in the morning. But then after they've been nursing all day, you have a much lower supply at night. So it's not like every time you nurse, your body produces 6 ounces, 6 ounces, 6 ounces for every nursing period. When you're nursing, it gradually decreases throughout the day. Newborns will typically consume somewhere between 20 and 24 ounces of milk in that 24-hour period. So that can give you a good guide of what your body needs to produce. But also know that a baby is able to extract more milk than a pump. They have a much more powerful suck than even the best pump. So you can add probably about a half an ounce in your mind to what your baby will be able to get in addition to your 24-hour total of milk. Here is a word on pumping. Once baby's sleeping through the night and has dropped the dream feed, you'll need to start pumping at night before bed, because you shouldn't go more than 10 hours without breast stimulation. Breastfeeding is a demand and supply system, so whatever the baby or the pump is telling your body it needs, that's how much it's going to supply. However, if there's a lack of need, a lack of demand, then your supply is going to diminish. So if you're dropping the dream feed, you need to replace that with a pump. So what you do is just, let's say your baby's last feeding is at 7 p.m. At 9:30 or 10 before you go to bed, pump and put that in a storage bag and put it in your freezer, and it's great for times that you'll be away from baby and you won't need to buy formula. All right, what happens when you are engorged? Engorgement is when your breasts are very full to the point of being painful. Oftentimes they'll get really hard. and because they have so much milk in them. Well, you don't have to worry. Your body's going to adjust over time. So this is more of a problem as you're close to the birth. Your body is just producing milk, and it doesn't have a good idea of what your baby needs yet. So you can either wait it out, or until your body starts to adjust to the milk that you need, or you might choose to pump to relieve some pressure. So this can be helpful if there's just so much milk, it comes in too fast for a newborn baby, or your breast is so engorged that it's hard for you hard for the baby to latch onto the nipple because the breast is so big and round. They just can't get their mouths around it. So pumping just a tiny bit before you nurse can be helpful to deal with engorgement. But remember, it is a demand and supply issue. So if you're telling your body that you need more milk, then it's going to keep producing that amount of milk. So when pumping, don't empty your breast completely if you're just doing this to let off some pressure. Just do it a little bit. So again, this tells your body that you need the supply of milk if you are emptying completely. Now, that does not apply to your pumping before bedtime. If you've dropped the dream feed, you do need to empty your breast completely at that time. Pump for 10 to 15 minutes at that time. But if you're just doing this to deal with some engorgement, just pump enough to release a little bit of pressure. Okay, weaning and drying up. This can be a painful process. It seems like everything in childbearing and nursing and weaning and drying up, it's all painful, right? It's just a part of it. But we do it because we love our children. So the further you are from birth, the easier it can be to dry up, but not necessarily. If you're a high producer, then it can still be quite painful to dry up. But some people aren't, and the further away you get from the birth, the more that your body has decreased the need and the supply, so it can be a fairly easy process to dry up. So you can choose to dry up by doing one of two things. You can just go cold turkey, not pump, not nurse at all, or you can do this gradually. You can just pump after a couple of days, or once a day, just to let a little bit of pressure off. Once a day to let a little pressure off, or nurse at night times, nurse in the morning and nurse at night, to gradually wean your baby. Instead of 4 feedings a day, go down to 2 feedings a day, and then go down to 1 feeding a day. This does help with that demand and supply. You're telling your body that you need less and less and less, so it will gradually decrease that supply. Now, also know that it takes longer to dry up when you do nurse or pump gradually like that. So it will take a lot longer to dry up at that time. What to do when you do dry up: wear a tight-fitting sports bra. Make sure it's held in there very, very tight. That can make it more comfortable for you. Don't stand forward facing in the shower, because that will stimulate the nipples and stimulate a letdown, and your milk will come in. And it's almost like telling it you need more supply. Wear milk pads to catch any leaking from unexpected letdowns, because your body's going to be filling up with milk and it's going to say, hey, we need to get rid of this. And you might feel letdowns occasionally, so your body may start to drip with that. And nurse or pump only a little to let pressure off. This will prolong the drying period. Now here's a question that everybody asks, and everybody has a different answer to. How long should I nurse my baby for? Should it be 6 months, a year, 2 years? What's the right amount of time? Well, this is a personal preference. There really is no right answer to this. If you're having trouble nursing, just nurse as long as you can, and don't feel guilty if you can't nurse. Do it as long as you can, because those nutrients are very, very good for your baby. There are antibodies in there that formula can't give your baby to protect them from illness in those first few weeks or months, that are very helpful. But if you can't, then just do it as long as you can, and even a couple weeks really helps baby get a boost of antibodies and nutrients. Can I nurse past a year of baby's life? Yes, of course. That is, if that's a decision that you want to make, great. Go ahead and do that. The only thing is that you don't want to get in the habit of nursing to sleep. So after 12 months, we've talked about this before, children form an intense attachment to things. So like pacifiers, nursing, any sort of lovey animals that they sleep with. And any habits that you have may be hard to break after the 12-month mark. So while nursing isn't a bad thing to do after 12 months, I do recommend that you don't nurse to sleep, as always. I always recommend that that's not a healthy habit to get into to aid in sleep training. So just don't be in that habit of nursing to sleep, because that can be very, very, very hard to break, especially after 12 months. And if you have a pacifier baby, take away that pacifier. I had a rule for my children who like pacifiers on their birthday. You know, the day after their birthday, the pacifier goes away. I just scoop them up and put them away. And it's an easier transition than trying to break your child of any bad habits at 2 or 3 years old. So that is all I've got on breastfeeding. I hope that answers some of your questions and helps you get a good, healthy start.